My name is Jackie Garvey, and I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana Center for Family, School, and Community Partnerships. The Parent-Teacher Communication Initiative was designed and developed as a part of a full-service community grant at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. So in this initiative, we ask a group of teachers if they would select 5 parents each to record over the semester the ways that they would communicate with their parent. We asked them to create an academic goal that they each agreed on, and then record and track the impact that it had on their students. So we invite you to hear some of the stories from the teachers who were involved in this project.
Let's talk about the project. What did you like about it?
Until this project, I never really sat down. I thought about who needed that communication the most. I had never done that before. And I also had never taken out the time to pinpoint or use that communication to be like, how can I really help? How can we meet goals through this project? How can we really take this to the next level? And it really helped. That helped me as a teacher.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, because I think that oftentimes in schools, it's a lot of times it's like information from the school or from the teacher to the parent, whether it's about just stuff going on at the school or in the class. But to really get to what you were talking about in terms of focusing on goals around the students' strengths or needs, that is real communication, which means it allows parents to really get clarification and provide information that perhaps the teacher needs.
I was going to say I completely agree, because had I not worked with her, and knew that it was like she was asking all these questions, I never would have started telling parents, ask your kids for me. Find out. Maybe they're just not wanting to talk to me because the kids are all around me all the time. There's not that alone moment. And so, and then she showed me that parents have questions too, and maybe I'm not answering those. So it really has helped to improve the way I communicate with my parents as a teacher.
Now, getting back to your experience here in terms of the communication around your son, what do you remember the strengths that you agreed upon?
I would say the goal that we set for him was just getting it accomplished. I know that sounds so simple, but everything else was there. He knew this stuff. Our goal was to see him pass the grade. By the end of the year, there were 3 standards that he did not get. I got individual packet for him made, put together. I told her what it was over. I worked with her on it. I worked with him in small group on it. We both were working at home and at school. And then he got 100% on the acuity test for the state.
What would you say, how were any sort of changes in terms of his behavior or academics as a result of your communicating together from your perspective?
I guess academically he's gotten better. Now that he's in the 6th grade, he seems to be more motivated to do his work. He's actually doing his work. He's gotten better about having his work done. It's just making sure he gets everything done and he gets it turned in on time.
In what way, if any, has this project influenced your relationship with your child?
And she just knows that I talk with Miss Nicholson on a regular basis. He knows that if I'm talking to her, then I'm talking to her about him, and so he knows something is coming his way. He just doesn't know what's up yet.
What would you want other parents to know about communicating with their child's teacher?
It's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit. I think for my daughter, she tells me whenever I show up to her class, it gives her confidence.
Really?
I think
awesome.
if parents showed up in their classes and just sat with them and saw what they go through every day, children would really understand or really feel like their parents understand, okay, you see what I see, you're going through what I'm going through, you see what's being taught. And for my daughter, for any of my kids, they've always done better. If there's definitely need to get out there, talk to the kids' teachers. It really helps their children. Their grades will go up, especially if you talk to their teachers, find out what's going on. It holds the children accountable.
I think too that, though, you mentioned something that I don't know that people think about often, but it's just sort of that empathy about understanding what she has to go through every day. Also the reality that, students live these lives in schools, and sometimes, they're not always easy. So that's a really powerful idea too. What would you want teachers to know about communicating with families?
I want them to find not just one way, several ways of communicating. Because sometimes I may not check my email every day. Leave a voicemail. Set up conferences, find different ways to communicate. Instead of just the one random phone call and, oh, they didn't answer, I'm not going to worry about it, and you never call again. So if you call me and if I don't answer, shoot me an email, send home a note, find different ways to communicate with me, because I'm going to respond. Because, you know, I might come home and pass out or go to sleep, or I've got a lot of things to do, but first thing in the morning, I'm always going through my email. Oh, who sent me an email? I'll send an email back at 6:35 in the morning because I've just read it. So find different ways to talk to parents, reach out to us. You know, for me, it makes a difference because I've got 4 children. I'm trying to keep track of not only my youngest son, but 3 other people that I'm trying to make sure that, you know, I'm trying to get them to pass. I'm trying to talk to their teachers. So I'm communicating with a lot of different people. So I may not get to you immediately, but let me know, and I will call, I will text, I will show up.
In what ways then, you, Ms. Nicholson, in what ways has the project influenced your practice as a teacher?
The project is really opened my eyes to communication. She really changed my opinion on parents are really out there and they really do care. It showed me that, you know what, if I don't get one way, I'm gonna try another way. I'm gonna keep approaching the situation, invite them into my classroom. Now I'm like, you're welcome into my classroom anytime. Come in whenever you want to. And I don't feel the same way on the flip side. I'm not as nervous with parents now because I've had this time to communicate with a parent, and I see, you know, they want the same thing that I want, and if we get on the same page, we're gonna succeed. We're gonna make that happen. I'm very impressed with the progress that our communication gave her son, to where now he's almost completely skipped a year of school just because we took out the time to work with them to reach that goal.
What kind of recommendations would you give to parents about communicating with their child's teacher?
I think parents need to stop worrying about bothering their teacher. Teachers want parents to contact them. So just letting the parents know you're there for them, you're working with them, you're not giving up on them. But I had to reassure her that I'm here to support him. I will do whatever I can for your student. Whatever you need from me, you let me know, because that's my job. That's what I'm here for, to get you that education and that success.
What advice might you give other teachers about homeschool communication?
I feel like it's extremely important for teachers to remember that everyone just wants respected. And at the end of the day, just because a parent is busy, just because a parent has a lot of things going on in life or they're struggling, that we can't give up on them. They're too used to being given up on. And we need to let them know that we're there for them. We're helping any way we can, even if it's outside of the classroom, because there are issues that these students are going through that it might not be academic. As teachers, we need to let parents know that we care, that we do have high standards for them, that we're not going to give up on them just because we got tired.
Just to hear the stories of, you know, people like you who've done this project, of getting over that and building some trust and, you know, cultivating some empathy, and just what powerful consequences or powerful outcomes you guys can achieve for the student. It's pretty awesome.
It has to be quality relationships. Quality relationships is key.
Let's begin by hearing from you about a parent-teacher communication initiative.
I would describe it from the teacher perspective as not only increasing the communication to parents, but improving the quality of the communication to parents. Actually giving the effort, tracking the effort, and making sure that we're hitting the education from all different sides.
It made me feel, I want to say pretty much completely comfortable after we opened that line of communication that he was in a classroom with someone who cared about his well-being and his future and what was to come of him.
Can you talk about how do you achieve sort of the openness in the communication?
Before parent-teacher conferences, I had sent out newsletters to each parent, and I sent them out every single week from the very first week. I tried to reach out to each parent during the first month of school to try to find something nice to say. In addition to all of that, I sent out a booklet that had my cell phone number in it, and that gave the parent the opportunity to contact me at any time. So by providing my cell phone number, and giving the parents the chance to text or call or meet me wherever they're comfortable. You know, if they're comfortable with texting, I'll text. It really did pave the way, I think, for open communication between the two of us. When I invite parents into my classroom and they're going to meet with me, I try to, one, have a prepared sheet of paper that shows exactly where their child is developmentally, so that would be maybe behaviorally, as well as the data that we have on the child so far. So that would be Dibble's test scores for kindergarten. I had them color coded, so it was very easy for the parents to understand. I explained where the challenges were. I explained what we were working toward and what the goals might be and how they could help at home. And when you bring a child into the conference, it allows them, one, to connect with their parent. It's all about the child. The parent is sitting there and we're discussing where the child actually stands from a data perspective. The child understands this is your goal. Here's where I need you to be, and this is where you are.
Right. And the other benefit, I think, to go along with what you said, if you have the child there, you're talking about them, you're going to talk about them whether they're there or not, but they can hear the expectation. And they know that you know what the expectation is. And so they get a chance to see you agree. This is where you are. This is where we expect you to be by the end of the year, and we know you can get there. So they hear it from the teacher's perspective. They hear the parent agree or understand, and we're all on the same page. So
In the beginning, you identify a strength about the child, right, that you agree upon. Do you remember what strength you shared with each other and agreed upon? About?
His high ability actually was a little bit of a concern for Mom because she wanted to make sure he was going to be challenged in a classroom full of kindergartners, and not all of the kindergartners knew their letters.
I didn't know where he was by standards. I knew that that's pretty good that he can do this, and that's pretty good that he can do that. Until we really met, then I was like, oh, he's as bright as I think he is. And then, like she said, okay, now what do we do? And the brilliant thing that she did was made these children helpers with these children so that they were always working. So she was empowering them to help.
I'm not sure that could have occurred without really good communication between Mom and I, because you can't just make kids helpers and just assume that everything's going to be okay. I mean, you really have to bring the parents in on that.
I think one of the things that we learned over the course of the year that I think may have helped you as we communicated was he knew we were communicating.
Yes. As he was growing into his role of a student, from a small child into a student, the communication between Mom and I increased, not decreased. And I think that's one of the most important pieces that teachers sometimes miss. The communication shouldn't decrease if the child's behavior is improving, because it was the communication that drove the improvement to begin with.
So as a parent, what advice would you give to other parents? I'm going to ask you two questions. I want to know your advice for parents and then advice for teachers about building relationships, teacher-parent relationships, about communicating and in ways that really support student growth, student development.
I would say don't be afraid to communicate would be the first thing. And for the teacher, not just when it's something bad or where there's improvements that are needed, but all the time, because I think it definitely builds, I know it builds a relationship. But from a parent standpoint, don't be closed-minded in, my child wouldn't do that. Don't be closed-minded because we really don't necessarily know what our kids can do, and we don't know what the environment is doing around them. So you have to be open-minded that if you are getting some information, that don't be defensive about it. It doesn't necessarily a reflection of your parenting that this happened. But how can we learn from it? You as a parent, how can we better parent, and how can we teach our children? Because they're going to stumble. If it's not now, usually it's going to be at some point. So we need to know how to build them up.
My advice for parents is, again, aligned with her. Be open. Your teacher, your child's teacher, is your child's biggest advocate other than you. For teachers, I would hope that teachers will embrace technology. Sometimes it's just a quick text. Hey, had a great day today. Little things like that mean a lot to a parent when you know that you're giving your baby over to someone for 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day. You are entrusting a lot to a teacher. So I try to give little snippets of their day to the parents so that it would open those lines of communication. And finally, advice for teachers would be to don't assume that the parents are not on your side. So I think that this communication project and being very open with your parents is incredibly beneficial. And it benefits them not just in the year that you have them, but I think throughout their school career. Because once parents get that confidence and develop the relationship with just the one teacher, it gives them confidence and helps them be more open and receptive to the rest of the teachers who have that child.
The real message is about the conversation, not just about the contact, but about the relationship.
Yes.
And the conversation and the fact that the conversation is part of the building up of the child.
Absolutely. I think that if parents and teachers keep that in mind, it would make for a much better student. I think that has to be true across the board, just because, again, the point, as the gentleman said, is it's about the student. And if you keep that in mind, whether you're giving positive or not so positive feedback, it's all in the name of making a better student. I think that everybody kept that in mind. And,
It would be awesome.
it would be awesome.